Right. Which Eisenhower warned us about back when he was leaving office.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, do you, in that they disclose, things are kept close to the vest on really the inner reaches of this shadow government. Do you really expect disclosure to happen? Don't you expect even further continuance on the disclosure of information regarding this phenomenon on a need-to-know basis?
You got a good point, Eric. It does have a tendency, just by its nature. Nobody wants to give up profits, and nobody wants to be accused of lies for years, right? So they maintain control through the media. We have the documents to show, the CIA has relationships with every single major media back in '91, and that we have a list of 42 CIA operatives that are in high executive positions that help oversee, make sure that is disclosed. And I got a firsthand, being a ABC newsman, I watched how they reported everything. And after I went to Washington, I was on CNN, CBS sent a special assignment team to do an interview with me. And I said, look, I'm not going to do this interview unless I can say that we have the scientists, quote, we have the scientists willing to show that we have the energy devices to end the environmental damage and end the energy crisis, unquote, And I said, I'm not going to do the show unless I can say this to the public. They promised up and down, interviewed me for 45 minutes, but when they got done, they did exactly the same template that, CNN did, and cut it at exactly the same place, exactly the same place where nothing was, it gave the perception that we were a whole bunch of military and scientists and things that were looking forward to say that UFOs are real, which what happened is that the executive producer, I called her up and she was in tears. She's saying, I'm sorry, the higher executives, quote unquote, made me cut out the part about the energy stuff, which, could rock the boat quite a bit, you'd say.
Yeah. On that, well, I mean, they all get their talking points from the same source, and, when push comes to shove, they want to keep their jobs, and they'll keep a tight lid on information.
Precisely.
Yeah, it's 53 minutes past the hour, and we're with Dan Willis from the Disclosure Project. And what was that website?
Disclosureproject.org. And I created an online fax that everyone who wants to voice their opinion, they can read about it, educate themselves, find out it's real, and they can send a fax to Obama and their representatives to look into this matter. It's free, and they can do it on disclosureproject.org.
Okay. Now, Christie, you have a 15-minute piece of tape that's coming up in the next segment. Why don't you give us a little bit of preview of what that is?
That would be great, Eric. Yeah, no one's ever heard this before. I composed it myself out of, you have an hour and a half of witness testimonies. I got it down to 15 minutes of the most explosive testimonies of the 20 witnesses. I'm not in it, but everyone can hear for themselves that there is something more to this than saying that UFOs are real. There is something a whole lot more. And anytime you're willing to play that, I'm sure the listeners would enjoy hearing that.
Yeah, we're going to play the entire 15-minute segment, I guess right after break, since we have about 5 more minutes to lead into the break. I want to ask you, though, I mean, there's so much, how you used to think, unless I see one, I'm not going to believe it. And, I know that that type of aircraft or advanced aircraft or whatever you want to call it, UFOs exist. In fact, I've, met General Levkin myself, and we've had a couple of your other friends on the show here talking about it. But I'm still, undecided as to where did this originate? Did they really come from life in outer space, or is that our own government, in fact, that has this technology?
Oh, good question, Christie. What happened was, back when we were playing with nuclear weapons in the beginning, back in '45, Many of the witnesses involved in nuclear facilities, they were just being buzzed with UFOs all over the place. It seems as though, this is speculation, it seems that when we exploding these nuclear weapons, it sent out a signal, so to speak, to say that, these children are now playing with matches, and they came about to see what's going on, because there has been basically situations where the extraterrestrials have rendered our nuclear weapons inert, but they haven't been coming in like War of the Worlds, and blasting us, or like Independence Day or something like that. They basically have turned off the nuclear missiles, and some of the witnesses were on Larry King Live, such as Professor Jacobs, where they were planning on exploding a missile on the moon, and it was a UFO came in and circled the warhead as it was going 17,000 miles per hour, and it dropped off, and the CIA came in, had them cut out that part of the film. So what happened was the high-powered radar hit one of these crafts and caused the crash, from what I understand, and then a reverse engineering effort started from there. Okay. Wow. Yeah, Christie, as I said, it's just a small tidbit, compared to some of the other witnesses had supporting documentation. I tried to get mine through the Office of Naval Intelligence on Freedom of Information, but they said it's been destroyed, so I was unable to bring. But, for example, Captain Salas had all his from the Air Force Office of Special Investigations detailing 16 intercontinental ballistic missiles being shut down, red glowing UFOs out by the guard gate, with all the weapons drawn, people freaking out, at the guardhouse. Nuclear missiles. It was over 500 people that came forward to speak. Well, we have over 500 witnesses, but of those, 20 of them, of which I happen to be one because there was an opening there, went to the National Press Club and said in front of 22 major media cameras that each one of us was willing to testify under oath before Congress, and we were seeking a congressional hearing on disclosing the full facts on this whole thing. It's not just about the reality of UFOs. Yeah, I'm just wondering how many people have information that can absolutely confirm this that haven't come forward, either because they're afraid to, or because of, I guess you're not supposed to speak about these things really without some sort of retribution. And I know that the whole thing is so compartmentalized that, you could be working right next to somebody in one of these bases and not necessarily know what they're doing. So it's just, it's amazing how secretive they've been able to keep all of this. And this technology, I think, would help society out in many ways. I mean, don't you think? Oh, yeah. And you're right, Krista. People say, the government can't keep secrets. Well, the secret government and the structure, the way they have it, they can keep secrets, and, and I just want... Oh, go ahead, Eric.
They keep secrets when they want to, and they don't when it's in their interest not to. Yeah. As one of our witnesses says, they have special teams that would come in at different levels that they take care of the situation one way or another, if they have a security breach for this information. But the thing that caught my attention was, with the media, watching it, how it didn't get the message across, because after we did the Disclosure Project, in Washington, we realized that the media is not getting the message out, so we decided to go all over the whole United States, every major city, and rent these big halls. And I went through most of the major cities all over the West Coast, and every single time, without exception, it was amazing. I'd watched what was disclosed, and we'd have an executive briefing video showing the testimonies, and
and discuss the whole issue and everything, and we'd have standing ovations, and people sense this is real. People know that deep inside there's something going on, that the movie's not matching the subtitle on this stuff. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. And we're going to expose our audience here to some of that when we come back from the break. We're going to have that 15-minute tape to roll with all that explosive disclosures